everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today we're going to be going over the 2020 Kia Soul. The 2020 Kia Soul was recently redesigned for this year. As you can see, they've got a couple of the older body style ones just over there, so you can kind of see the differences between them. And as always, a big shout out and thank you to Jerry Signer Kia for providing us with the vehicle. If you are in the market for a Kia, definitely check them out. So first and foremost, we will do a walk around on the new 2020 Soul, then we'll take it out to see how it drives. And if you are stopping in for the first time, I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. Under the hood of this particular Soul is their 2-liter engine. Fuel economy on that particular engine is going to be 27 around town, 33 on the highway, and 30 combined. Now that engine in terms of power outputs is 147 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque. It is a continuously variable transmission. You also do have the option to get a turbocharged motor that's going to be good for a little bit more power. So that particular motor is going to be good for 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. And you can also get a 7-speed dual clutch automatic with that motor, and then the 6-speed manual transmission. I haven't decided if the rear end or the front is my favorite aspect of the Soul. We'll figure that out by the end of the review, but I definitely like how they've styled these new lights. They're a lot sharper than the prior generation, so they definitely, just the size on them, and you've got your turn signal integrated right there, and then they kind of have this little bar that goes across. It's not part of the light, but it makes it so it looks like it's a gigantic light bar on the front. You've got fog lamps integrated down below, and then you do have Kia's kind of like signature grille, and it is a very large grille, so it kind of gives this car a little bit of presence, and so it makes it look like it's larger than the vehicle actually is. Now, if you're wondering the color on this particular Soul, it's called Inferno Red, and I think it's kind of funny because this car is supposed to be kind of like a fun, easygoing car, and then they use a name like that for the particular color, but it's really good, and this is the kind of color that I would get if I were to get a Soul, just something a little bit flashier to go with the character of this car. We're coming around back, and hopefully this will focus. Usually it doesn't, but that's okay. So here's the key fob for the Soul. It's that same key fob that we went over with the Telluride. You can see that it's that key fob that has been taken from the Stinger, but you've got your lock and unlock function, and then you have a release for the tailgate and the alarm as well. We're going to come back here and pop open the tailgate. So you can see there's actually quite a bit of storage space back here. You've got a little cargo net, but the loading floor is actually really low, and so you've got a ton of storage space, and then you can fold down these rear seats if you need to store a little bit of extra stuff in the back. Now, like I said, I can't decide if I like the front or the rear of the Soul the most. I really like the lights on this. So it's like this gigantic light bar that goes around the whole portion of the car, and then they put kind of like this black insert here, so it's just like this big circle around the back of the car. I think it looks really cool, and there's not really a lot of other vehicles that do similar stuff to that, but they do a little kind of like chrome insert at the bottom of the bumper, and the exhaust, you can't really see it, but it's just hidden right under there on the bumper. They kind of hide the exhaust on this particular car. Now, coming around to the back here, we can open up the door to see the paneling here, and I love the design on the paneling with the Soul. So leather bolster here. This is the cool part though. This is kind of like this little design that they do on the door. The speaker's down there, but I just like how it looks, and the door handle feels pretty nice too, but it's a neat little thing that they have there. Now, looking at the seats, this particular one that I am reviewing is an X-Line trim, so it's kind of like your in-between trim, but for a smaller, like compact size car, this has a decent amount of storage space back here, but you could easily fit 3 people back here because there's not like a big hump there in the center area, so they could fit their legs comfortably. Now we're gonna come around to the front here, and you're gonna see a similar door panel than what was put in the back right there. All of your controls for the window are going to be right here, your door and unlock, your mirror controls, and then again with that cool design on the door, I really like how that looks. Speakers just right down below. These are your adjustments for the seats. You can see it's manually adjustable with the seats. If you go for the higher up trim, you can get power adjustments on these, but we've got our hood latch over there. You can see your pedal setup right down below, and then you have all your controls right here. So that's to turn off your blind spot, has auto stop start, your stability control, and then you do get adjustments on the steering wheel. Now, stepping in, step in height is really good. This is kind of more similar to like an SUV in terms of getting in and out of the car. Now, get ready for this, guys. Still got flip keys, so to start up the Soul, you have to put the key in just like that. turn the ignition, and the Kia Soul will do a little bit of sweep with the gauges, and the car will start right up. Now that the car started up, we can see all of our controls here for the cruise control. You've got your controls there for the center stack. We'll go over that momentarily. On the other side, we've got our controls for the radio and then also for the Bluetooth, and you can see the modes. That's for the radio modes right there, and it's nice that they have it all in the front of the steering wheel. And this steering wheel, I kind of like the design of it overall. It's nicely wrapped with leather. It feels really good, and it's got some nice stitching just in the center of it. Now here is your gauge cluster. So you have your RPMs on the one side, you've got your speed on the other side of the gauge cluster with your temperature gauge. And like I said, there's that little screen in the center that you can go through different menus to give you different bits of information on the vehicle. So you can see all that stuff that I'm scrolling through right now, and you can actually scroll up and down through those menus too when you do go into those particular menus as well. Coming over to the touchscreen area, we have all of our analog buttons for the touchscreen, and like I said in the Telluride, this new touchscreen system is really good. It's really responsive feedback, and it's nice that they have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay even on this like midline trim, because that's something that's really important to a lot of people. I personally don't use it, but I know a lot of people like to have that functionality of their phone screen being on the touch screen, and then also just the dual use of buttons and touchscreen, because I personally like buttons. I know a lot of people like the touchscreens, but I use most of the functions on buttons with my vehicles, and so it's nice that they double up on those. Now down below, we've got all of our climate controls right here. So analog climate controls just down below, and then if you pop even further down, you can see all of your controls here for charging. So you got little charging stations and 12 volts on top of that. Now right here, you can see that you have the shift lock release, and then you've got all of your gears here for that CVT transmission. It does have a sport mode, and then you can shift between your different drive modes. So if you press that button, you can see it'll tell me on the screen which normal mode I'm in, normal or sport. You can do most of your driving in normal mode, but it's just the easy press of a button. If we do pop the Soul into reverse, then a backup camera will pop up. It's got trajectory lines, and they move as you turn the steering wheel. Quality on it's really good, and I like that they have the two sets of lines, so then you can see where you're turning to and then also kind of where you're going. And so that's a really good thing, and it's a really easy system to use. And as I always say, you're going to be excited if you like to do e-brake slides, because they do a traditional e-brake with this. So just pull up and push down. A lot of manufacturers are getting rid of that, and so some people are looking just for cars that have it. So nice that the Soul still has that. Here is your armrest, leather with some stitching on it. It's comfortable to rest your arm on. You get extra storage space in here. So this car's actually really practical storage space wise, and it uses the space very well. And then on these seats, I like the look of these seats. They've got these nice bolsters. They're not really tight where they're uncomfortable, but they do hold you in place, and so you're not gonna be sliding all over the place. Coming down here, we've got our glove box. You've got all of your owner's manuals in there, but it's a decent amount of storage space, and that kind of goes along with what I wanted to wrap up on the interior. Is this car is not that big of a vehicle, but they use the space very well. There's a ton of space, like I said, in the back and in the trunk, and just the space overall, it's really nice. And so this is the type of car that is at a really reasonable price point, but then it also has a ton of space, and so it's super practical. And so if that's kind of something that you're looking for, then the Soul is definitely the route to go. Now that we're done going over the features on the interior and exterior, let's take the 2020 Kia Soul out to see how it drives. We're starting off here in the 2020 Kia Soul, and so far I'm actually really impressed with this vehicle and how it's driving so far. Something that I'm noticing right off the bat is visibility is really good in this car. So the mirrors show a decent amount, but if you look over either of your shoulders, it just has a ton of visibility. So you can see out the back windows really easy, you can see over your side really easy. And so this is a car that's, you know, just from a practicality standpoint, like I said earlier, super practical space-wise, but then visibility-wise, it's also really practical. Now, something to mention, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, was the steering wheel. I like the design of the steering wheel, but I like the feel on the steering wheel on top of that. It just has a nice feel to it, and just like when you're making turns and all that, it just feels really nice. We are about to take the Soul onto the interstate to see how it accelerates, and this one's not going to be as quick as the turbocharged motor, but you know, we'll be the judge of, you know, if it's quick enough in just a moment. in terms of acceleration, it accelerates quick enough for the car. It's not sports car level or anything like that, but I imagine with that turbocharged motor and that dual clutch transmission, it's going to feel a lot snappier and a lot sportier and quicker. Ride quality on the interstate is really smooth. There is not a whole lot of road noise, and it's something that's really comfortable, and that kind of goes along with that theme of practicality that I've been hitting on this whole time, is the fact that this car has as much space as it has, and it's smooth and it's easy to drive, and it gets really good fuel economy. I mean, this has, you know, similar practicality levels to an SUV, but then it also has, you know, similar fuel economy levels to a smaller size car, so you get the best of both worlds. To sum things up on the Kia Soul, where this would stand is, you know, from the shoppers that are, you know, just depends on the budget range that you're within, but this definitely is a much more affordable car than what I usually review. And so if you're looking for something that's a little bit more budget friendly, this still has a ton of practicality. It's actually pretty fun to drive. I imagine, like I said, that turbocharged motor with the dual clutch is going to be an absolute riot to drive. Maybe I'll eventually get my hands on one of those. The Kia dealership that I'm working with, they said that they sell so quickly that, I mean, it's just hard to keep them on the ground. But again, if you're in the market for something like that, a little bit more space and practicality and good fuel economy, the Kia Soul is definitely one of the vehicles that you have to put on your list to check out. And there we have it, everyone, the 2020 Kia Soul. As always, big shout out and thank you to Jerry Signer Kia for providing us with the vehicle to review today. If you are stopping in for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. It always helps out the channel. Comment down below what you thought, leave a like if you liked the video, and then I will see all of you in that next video.